All right, everyone, let's do this. How are you? Welcome to this week's episode of our podcast. It's called Is Breakfast Included? Thanks for stopping by on the show this week. I talk with my good friend, Toby Bittenbender. Toby was the guitar player in a band called Jibe. He's got a new project called A Curious Beast. He talked about it. They've got a single called Waves that you can stream on Apple Music, Spotify, all streaming platforms. They've got a video on YouTube. He also talked a little bit about his sobriety and how it helped him get to where he is now. It's a great conversation. It's a great song. They're a great band. And I had a lot of fun catching up with them. Anyway, let's check it out. All right, man. Tell everyone who you are, first of all.
First of all, so my name is Toby Bittenbender. I am a guitar player, songwriter. I love music, all things music. And I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm also a realtor.
Yeah.
That's what I do with that as well. It's been a while since I've put any music out, and I'm just so excited to be doing this project, A Curious Beast. I just can't say enough about it.
All right, man. Well, for guys like me who came up in that scene, I know you from back then when you were in Jibe.
Yes.
And I knew your drummer, Ben, really well.
Yeah, awesome. Love Ben.
Yeah.
Guy, man.
And so the Jibe actually came back for a minute.
We did. It was a quick minute, it seemed like, right?
It was a quick minute, but
got 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was about 3 years ago, you said?
Well, so it was 2015. So basically, we disbanded, I'll say, in 2004. And 11 years later, we decided to do a reunion. And at first it started off as a show. And, back in 2004, the way that it ended was very abrupt. And so we were kind of left hanging, and so were our fans, the people that had supported us for all of those years that we were together from late 93 until the early part of 2004. People that had come to our shows and supported us and traveled to different states to see us. We're all kind of left hanging with no final show or anything. It was just kind of an abrupt thing. So in 2015, the bass player Corey had just texted me and said, "Hey man, we should do a Jibe show." And it was just so out of nowhere. We all kind of remained friends throughout the years and spoke, but never had even really considered doing another Jibe show. It was kind of weird, But I was at that moment like, that sounds interesting. I think it would be super cool especially for our friends and fans that kind of supported us all that time.
Yeah.
To have, another moment to get to see us play again, So we got on the phone. I was like, man, there's some hurdles that we gotta get past first before that can happen. And so we all jumped on the phone, and I spoke to Ben first about it. Honestly, I called Ben and I was like, man, what do you think about this? There's some trepidations there, man. And it took a little bit of time to get on the phone with everybody and make that work. There was some interpersonal things that had happened that were kind of keeping us apart. But anyhow, we made it happen. We did a show at Gas Monkey Live. I think we probably brought somewhere around 12, 13. I don't know exactly how many people, but it was a big show. And it was exciting, and it was fun, and just such a great evening that it was like September 25th of 2015 is when it was. So I was like, why don't we do another record? It's my idea. I've got all this music, man, that was just kind of sitting there for so long. And so, we ended up recording a record with Matt Nagusky from Blue October. He produced it at Orb Studios in Austin. And it was a cool experience, to get to play. It was weird. When we got back together and jammed for the first time, the strangest thing about it was it felt like a day hadn't passed since we hadn't been together. We immediately played, and it sounded the same as it did the day that we ended in 2004. So the chemistry was obviously still there and stuff. But so we put out another record, started doing some touring. And at the end of 2018, Joe had a wreck on his bike in LA, and it kind of brought everything to a halt. And then in that period of time, from then until right into 2019, I don't know, I had a lot of revelations and realized that maybe that wasn't the direction that I wanted to go. And so I left the situation behind.
Okay.
And in that moment as well, for like probably several years, it was probably like 2019. So I'm thinking, 6 years, I had been trying to stop drinking. I used to be, man, I'd be straight up with you. I was an addict. I thought it was just partying, man. I grew up on, Motley Crue and Van Halen in the 80s, and I just thought that's the way band guys were. So I lived that life, but I left all the drugs and stuff behind, probably like in my late 30s. But alcohol, I worked in the bars, as a bar manager, bartender, and it's very hard to quit drinking, when you're in the middle of the whole, it's like a kid in a candy store, right?
Yeah.
So I was trying to get sober. But when 2019 came around, part of my sobriety was letting go of the past and dealing with the past. And I think, at the end of 2019, I took my last drink of alcohol, and I've been sober ever since. And it was the best thing that I've ever done, So,
right on, man. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah, mental health has become a very big part of my life, and realizing that I was an addict and that I needed to change that. And alcohol was the hardest thing that I ever let go of. It's a difficult thing to stop, and so I commend anyone that's trying and anyone that has done it. It's the best thing that I've ever done, and I think that it definitely made me realize who I am and my value and my worth, and the kind of people that I want around me in the future.
Yeah. When you quit drinking, did that in somehow scare you that the creativity wouldn't be there anymore?
Well, I tell you, so there's a part of that for sure, but It was kind of a strange thing. I've been trying to quit for years, and it was kind of one of those backsliding situations where I'd quit for like 9 months, and then some traumatic thing would happen in my life, and I would backslide right back into drinking, because I think that's what we do. We kind of use it as an escape. And that's what it became for me anyway. And then I realized this isn't making me happy anymore. But I'll tell you, at the end of 2019, I was working with one of my best friends on a musical project of his. He had all these great song ideas. And not to get too heavy here, but unfortunately, right in the middle of that happening, he committed suicide at the end of in October of 2018. So October of 2019, I'm sorry. And that's what really, I think, set me on the reality of I need to stop doing I need to stop drinking, because I couldn't handle what was going on. He was an amazingly talented musician, dad, husband, incredibly talented, wrote the most amazing guitar parts. And he just had addiction issues and had mental health issues. And unfortunately couldn't save him, at the end, and it just changed me. And so I'll be honest with you, at the end of 2019, where it was actually December 29th of 2019 was the last time I ever took a drink. But man, for probably a good year and a half, I couldn't even look at my guitar. It was too painful to even look at it. But I had been recording ideas for years. And I just basically, if I get an idea, I'll just hum it into the phone, or I'll kind of, record it on the Logic Pro. And so I'd still continued, like, for about a year and a half, I couldn't touch my guitar, but I had stuff that I had done before that. And then I started playing my guitar again, and realizing that he would want me to be doing that and all that kind of stuff. So it was such a weird, interesting time. But I remembered, so let's say last year, at the end of the year last year, I'll kind of skip forward. I had an instance that happened in my family that was a very traumatic thing. And I actually ended up going into therapy, which I probably should have done therapy prior to that. You know what I mean? Like I should have probably gone and seen a therapist years ago. And I don't know why. I always thought I didn't need that. But now I realize I think everybody could use it, in some instances. But so I went into therapy last year. And what I got out of it was that, music for me is therapy. And I think it is for most everyone, probably listening to music, and especially writing and recording and just playing guitar is something that I've always used as my escape from the world and whatever it is that's inside of me that's kind of, spinning around. It comes out through my music. And I've been that way since I was a teenager. So it's weird. Like, the happiness that I feel in sobriety has done nothing but like inspire creativity, I guess. So I don't know. I did have those kind of weird thoughts of, am I going to be able to write? Am I going to be able to do these things. But man, I feel like it's even better than it ever was, because I remembered who I was before I ever started drinking. I was a songwriter before I ever took a drink of alcohol, and I did it. And, it just comes. I don't know why it comes, but it does. So,
Yeah, right on, man. And so you're doing this project, A Curious Beast now.
yes.
This
Yeah.
I watch your YouTube channel. You gave us a brief history about that. It
Yeah.
started in January of this year, correct?
Right. That's when we started the project. So it was also a part of the thing that happened last year. But, towards the end of therapy, I remember the therapist saying to me, because we talked about music and my past in music, and there was a lot of stuff I needed to talk about there. And she, there came a point where she asked me, well, so what are you doing with music now? And I was like, well, not much, and she's like, why? And I was like, I don't know. I couldn't answer the question. And then I started thinking, and that made me think. And I came home and I looked at all I got on Logic and looked at everything that I had written over the last 10 years, and really ideas that I've had since the 90s that I didn't use for the other bands that I was in. And when I started looking at it all, I mean, it's like a ton of songs, song ideas, and guitar riffs that are just sitting there. And I told my wife, April, I was just like, what am I doing here? I'm not getting any younger. You know what I mean? Like, tomorrow's not promised for any of us. And I don't want the last thing that I ever did in the world to be the last project that I did. And so I just started thinking, who am I going to get to help me do this? So the first guy that I called was Ross Rubio from Big Story.
Yeah.
And
Ross, by the way, is one of my favorite people on this earth.
Man, you and me both, bro. I have always loved Ross. And it's funny, I've known Ross for a long time. And when I worked at this bar in Louisville, he would play there with a band he had called Night School. And it was like Bishop, the singer Bishop, and Jason Jones from the Feds, and a couple of other guys. And they were incredible. They did all kinds of covers and all this stuff. And we would always talk. And then we figured out that we both played tennis. And so we started playing tennis together. I know we were both in tennis in high school, which was like, what? So we played tennis and stuff. And I'm a huge fan of Big Story. And Dave Perez is also one of my best friends. And so me and Dave play a lot of golf together, over the last few years. And so Dave has always played me stuff on the golf course that like Big Story is doing. There's some stuff that we've been writing. And I've always been like, who is recording this stuff? Because it sounds amazing. He's like, man, it's Ross. And I was just like, wow, dude, Ross. I knew he was recording, and I knew we both were using Logic, but man, he's like eons beyond my comprehension of what you can do with, I strive to be like Ross Rubio. Let's just put it like that. So I called him up, and I had high hopes, man. First of all, I was like, hey, man, I've got all these songs I want to record with you. So first, let's talk about that. What would it cost? And he's all, I'll hook you up. And I'm like, man, I want to compensate you for what you're worth. I've heard your stuff. I know it's amazing. Let's really talk about it. I'm gonna get musicians. And I was like, but first of all, will you play drums too? And he was like, oh man, I'd love to do that, And I was like, yeah, I'd love for you to play drums on at least some of these songs, because I think Ben is going to come in and do some stuff with me eventually as well. Because I've already talked to Ben too about everything. So Ben's in the middle of building this incredible drum room at his house in Austin, and he's gonna get back on the kit. I want to say maybe there might be some stuff going on with the Feds. I'm not sure exactly, but in the future we're definitely going to be. He's going to be coming in and recording some stuff with me as well. But Ross said yes to all of it, which I thought was amazing. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I've got the beginnings of this, So the next thing was, okay, bass, and the first guy that came to my mind was Sean Robinson, because he was the original bass player for Jibe. He was in the band. When me and Joe met and started Jibe, we met Sean right at the same time in the same week. And we all got together. We started Jibe, and then we went on our search for a drummer. We auditioned a bunch of dudes, but Ben was in Tulsa and Joe knew Ben. So he got in touch with Ben. That's how the whole thing came together. So, but Sean was in the band from late 93 to, I guess, January or February of 98. Incredible bass player and just an incredible human being. He moved. When he left Jibe, he moved to Hawaii on a jazz scholarship. Got married, has a beautiful family with his wife, 2 beautiful daughters, and we've always kept in touch and always talked about doing stuff together. And he came out to my house. I don't know, probably 2019 when I was working on that project with my friend. He put down a couple of bass lines, and it was funny. I hadn't spoken to him yet. And we get in this. So me and Ross and Dave are going to go in the studio and just kind of work out the first song, Waves, together, because I thought it was an easy one to kind of start. Yeah. So we go in the studio, and Micah from Edgewater was in the studio. And I was like, dude, I knew that he was recording his new Commotion album or record, whatever you want to call it, with Ross. And so he was there doing some mixing, and we talked. And he came in and jammed the bass on Waves, and then he ended up recording the bass line for Waves. And so after we did that jam, it was like the following day that Sean just randomly texted me. I hadn't talked to him in a little while. And he was like, hey, and he texted me one of the songs we had worked on. And he's like, man, we really need to work on this stuff. And I was like, it's interesting that you would text. I was like, man, I was going to call you. I'm doing this thing, and I want you to come play bass. And so now we're partners on the whole thing, man. He's playing bass on everything after Waves, and just an incredible guy, man. And that's one thing I love about this project is that everybody, Ross, Sean, everybody that's involved, Micah, Dave, everybody that's involved in this are just wonderful people, and it's people you want to be around and just hang out with, and incredibly talented at what they do. So
yeah, man. I mean, I saw that Micah had played bass on that. And that there was someone else playing bass on the rest of the stuff. And I mean, Micah's super talented as well.
And I'll tell you what about Micah. So back in the day when Jibe was doing shows in Edgewater, I would stand there in amazement watching them. First of all, I loved their band, loved their songs, and loved playing shows with them. But I would watch Micah and just be like, this guy, there's something. The whole band was incredibly talented, but I would just be focused on Micah like, man, this dude is blowing my mind, And I would talk to him afterwards, like, do you write a lot of this? Because I just get this vibe. And we would talk and stuff, man, but I have always wanted to work with him in some sort of capacity. It just thought it'd be cool to do something. So the fact that just kind of happened, just happenstance, and it was funny because Dave was like, we were just talking about old days in the studio that in the first night. And, we were talking about, old Deep Dellum days back in the day. And Dave was like, well, man, we're about to go in there and jam. Do you play bass? And Mike was like, well, it's just a guitar with 4 strings, which is obviously bass players, we are not bass players. Guitar players are not, but bass playing is a different animal, but it was kind of funny. And so I was like, man, come and jam with us. Well, he listened to the song a couple times, came in, and it just sounded so cool. I was like, you've got to play bass on it. So it kind of was just a cool happenstance thing, like I said. But so yeah, just to get to do that with him was super cool, But and then the final thing was like, who am I going to get to sing on this? And I was thinking this last year, like when I first started thinking of it, like, man, I got to get a guy. I got very soaring melodies. I sing, but I don't have a lead vocal. I'm a great background vocalist or a good background vocalist, whatever. I can sing background vocals, but my voice just doesn't lend itself to the kind of stuff that I write. I need like Joe is an incredible singer. I will say that about him, just an incredibly powerful voice. And so when I write, I just tend to write melodies that are very soaring and all this stuff. But I was like, man, I just need a guy that, it's simple. It's a guy that sings like somewhere between Chris Cornell and Scott Weiland. That's easy to find, right?
Of course. They're a dime a dozen, right?
Right. Not even a dozen, man. And I would laugh about that with my wife. And I was like, well, I'm serious. I need somebody that can do that kind of stuff. And, fast forward to January when we were doing this, I got on Facebook one morning and there's a guy, his name is Hunter Avant. And I met him. Well, I kind of met him in 2020. We were doing this veterans showcase deal with, who Matt JC is.
Yeah.
So he does the Rock the Troop stuff and he does all kinds of stuff for veterans, plays for the troops all around the world, basically. He asked me to get involved with this deal that he was doing where we write a song with a veteran who plays an instrument. And then we perform it. He's doing a documentary, and now he's got a TV show that's about to come out on YouTube that is showcasing. He took these veterans to Ireland and stuff. So anyway, this is in 2020, right before COVID happened. My wife and I were we went up to JR's bar at Will Call in Deep Ellum. He hosted Matt JC's deal that night. And so we go out there, we're sitting at the bar, kind of waiting for the whole thing to start. And we hear this guy start singing on stage behind us. We both turn around like, who is this guy? His voice was amazing. And I was like, JR, who is this dude? He was like, oh, that's Hunter, man. I was like, wow, this kid is amazing. And so I just kind of like kept tabs on him. I friended him on Facebook the next day. He was always putting out these videos on his Facebook page, him singing different songs, and it just sounded amazing. So in January, fast forward to January this year, I just jumped on Facebook and I saw he put out a bunch of reels, and it was like Adele and Post Malone and Justin Bieber. And then it was like 3 Days Grace and, Audio Slave. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is the guy. So I messaged him. I sent him. He was like, man, send me a couple songs. So I did. And he loved it. And now he's singing for the project. And man, this kid can sing anything. He's got an incredible voice range. I tell everyone, go to YouTube, look up Vonti, Vonti, and just watch his cover that he does. He plays 7 instruments, this guy. He started out in the flute in band in high school. And he was like, yeah, man, I was a band geek. And I'm like, what? It's just funny. But he plays guitar, and he's on there playing flute like this fluently. Fantastic musician. So go look up Vonti on YouTube and look up his aha version of Take On Me. It's just him with a piano. And it showcases his vocal range. It is spectacular. But he came in the studio, man, he listened to my stuff, came in. If I'm talking too much, you can tell me.
No. This is what we're doing.
I'm so excited, I guess. But I'm realizing I'm talking a lot. One thing about this band, and I told everybody from the start, is that yes, I sit here and I program drums and I'll write these songs and I'll have a demo of them and then I send them to everybody. But one thing that I know is that the sum of the group is much more powerful than the sum of one. Yeah. And I know that I can sit here all day long and have these demos, but they're just demos. They're of myself. But when I take these to the band and we go in the studio, man, the magic that happens, they take them from sounding like this to just sounding because of their talent and what they bring to the table. And I've told them all that I'm all about collaboration. I want their input. If they hear a line in a song that they think maybe they have a better line, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
Ross is such an incredible drummer that I want him to Rossify the drums. You know what I mean, man?
Oh, yeah. He's amazing, man.
He is, man. And so my songs are just basics. And when I bring them in there, they turn them into these spectacular pieces of art. And I'm so excited about it.
Right on. So everyone else you worked with up until you found the singer, you had a past with, you knew their personalities. You knew that you could do the hang with them. Were you worried of bringing in this kid? Like, you didn't really know him, but you knew how talented he was. Like, did he come in and did he meet your expectations personality wise?
Man, I will tell you this. He exceeded the expectations. And one thing I'll tell you too is that, like, when we became friends on Facebook in 2020, I just kind of watched, like anytime he would post a video, it was always awesome. And I'd just be like, heart it.
Yeah.
And create that kind of stuff. But I would also notice that this guy's also got a couple of kiddos and he is always taking care of them. And I just could tell that he's a good guy, right? I've got my daughters in college now, and I'm a couple of generations older than Hunter. And but I could just kind of tell through his posts on Facebook that he just seemed like a real cool dude.
Very grounded.
Well-rounded guy, And then when he came into the studio for the first time, of course, I was a little nervous because the funny thing is this: I went back and looked at pictures from that night with Matt JC because I knew there were some pictures and stuff. And the funniest part is that he actually was involved in that thing with Matt JC too. I didn't realize it because I didn't meet him that night. which is hilarious. And there's pictures where I'm standing there and he's literally standing right behind me. And we didn't actually meet that night.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But when he came to the studio, man, we talked. He fit right in with the group. Real down to earth, very humble guy. Which is humility is very hard to find sometimes when you're dealing with people. And he just fit right in, man. And so the first night he comes in and when he came in and sang Waves, I just sit there going, whoa, this is even better than I could have ever expected. He shows up, he's on time, he works his butt off, and I literally can't say enough about him, man. So we just did a video on Sunday, and he's very charismatic on camera. I can't wait for you guys to see the second single that we're doing, because we actually did a video with everybody in the band in it. So
yeah. So A Curious Beast, that's what it's called. You said there's a new bass player that Micah just was there. They played bass, which worked out.
Yeah.
Is this a lineup you want to keep together and do shows with?
I'll tell you what, man, I would love that. And I think in this day and age, back in the day, there was a lot of weirdness if you played in another band. You know what I mean? Like you know what I'm saying? Maybe it still happens. But what I do see a lot is, like, look at Mark Tremonti, for instance. It's a good example of a guy that plays in like a bunch of different stuff. And, I feel like a lot of guys do that, especially in the world we're living in now.
Yeah.
And I think that it lends itself. And look at Seattle. I mean, I can always go back to Seattle. I tell people we wouldn't have Temple of the Dog or some of the greatest records, Mad Season. It's
right.
like, and I've heard there was some weirdness with some of the bands when those things were going on, but you wouldn't have those great records if you didn't have that. So, I mean, the thing is, yes, I'd love to play some shows once we're finished with the entire recording. And we put the entire full length out. I'm thinking it's going to be in the beginning of 2025 when we actually release the full record. There's going to be 10 songs. I would love to do shows with this lineup. I would love that. But I know that Ross has Big Story, and that's his baby.
Yeah.
And Hunter is like all over the map. He started his own original band with another guy. They're working on stuff right now. He teaches at a magnet school in Dallas. He's a vocal coach. He does private lessons. And he also does a lot of work with people that just want him to record on their projects. And then, Sean, he lives in Hawaii, but this has become, for me and Sean, this is our baby. And this is what we want to do, and so, yes, we would love to play shows. I'd love for Ross and yes, I think Hunter's the only guy that can sing it. So, and Hunter wants to do that. It's schedules permitting. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I think that we will do some live shows together.
Well, man, it sounds so good to hear how excited you are about it. I know it's been a while since you put out any original music.
Right.
It's been a while. Like I said, you and I crossed paths a few times over the several years, but we don't really know each other. But I've always been a fan of yours, man. I've always been a fan. I was a big fan of Jibe. You were always cool to me, and when I started seeing that you were posting about this new project, I was very hesitant to email you and say, hey, send it to me. I want to hear it. And man, I was blown away by it. I was blown away. And you released the video for Waves last Thursday. And congrats, man. As of last night, you got like over 7,000 views on that thing.
Thank you so much. It's amazing the kind of feedback. You never know how it's going to be received. And the thing that I think is the coolest thing, well, first of all, thank you for all of that. That is amazing. And don't ever hesitate to reach out to me, because, man, I've been following you. I'm fascinated by what you do and the people that you get to work with, and I'm sure you deserve to work with. I mean, obviously, and just the trip that you were just on in Croatia and all that stuff. This is amazing stuff. That's why I said, Dave and I have talked about starting a podcast for a while now, and it's going to be a music related thing. And I've told Dave, we got to have Bernie on, man, just to get stories. I'm sure you have stories galore. But I truly appreciate you saying all of that. I want to say this about Jibe, that I look back on Jibe now and I can be more objective about it. And I can see what it was. And I know that we had a very special chemistry between us all, no matter the kind of stuff that happened off stage. I understand, and I've seen videos. I can see where, I see it. I know, and I appreciate this, how special that situation was. We created that. We were young, and we jumped on the road, and we just went for it, and it shaped who I am as a person, and I'll always be grateful for that. But with the Curious Beast, it's a thing where I'm like, I love everyone involved, and I think everyone feels the same way about me. We all respect each other. We're all here to lift each other up, and kind of everyone's talents. We want to put them all on a pedestal, and that's kind of what this band is all about. So, I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that Dave was involved, but Dave and Ross, Big Story was probably my favorite project of last year, man. They did the show, they sent me the album, and I was just so blown away. So they're so talented, the two of them, man. And the bass player, I don't really know their bass player singer, but that album, that EP is just amazing.
I'll tell you, Arlo is all of them are elite players, man, and songwriters. Carlo is an amazing singer and bass player, and I'm super proud of those guys. I've known Dave for a very long time as well. And man, the thing about me and Dave is we get together and jam sometimes and we'll play each other ideas that we have. And man, I'll tell you, I wrote Waves in 2018, and I recorded it. It all happened. It was one of those things that happened in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I recorded the whole thing, and we were on the golf course, and I sent it to Dave. I was like, man, I got this track I want you to check out. And he called me later, like, dude, this is like an earworm, man. I can't get it out of my head. And I'm like, really? So Dave has given me a lot of confidence to really kind of get back into it, and like put myself out there, and we kind of do that for each other. And so when I started this, I was like, man, you should come in. And I'll tell you, Waves, when we went in and jammed that night, I've got the main riff for the that I had written for the verses, and then Dave was playing these riffs that were just playing off of that, and they ended up being on the record. So one of the sides is Dave, and the other side is me, which I think is super cool. I've always too, but he's helped write some of the stuff, and just another great person, man.
Yeah, man, great guy, and he's a madman on guitar, man. He's really good, and I say that, and I mean it. What they do, I really like it. This song, man, Waves, is super catchy. It's got a great hook, and I thought that was you singing, but now you're telling me it's this other cat, so I'll have to check him out on YouTube, because I was listening, I was like, Man,
I'll tell you what, if I can sing like that, Bernie, I'm really going to do it. That's probably like my one Achilles. Well, I'll tell you what, man, I'm probably going to go and see a vocal doctor, like a ear, nose, throat doctor, because what happened was I didn't always sound like this. Back in my, when I was in my teens and up to my mid-20s, I could sing like the highest of high notes. I could hit like Mariah Carey notes. It would freak people out. I mean, and I just didn't understand what I had. I never did vocal lessons. I wish that anyone would have just said, dude, go take a vocal lesson, bro, and figure out how to sing correctly. So then I get in a band with Joe, and he's got this amazingly natural, powerful voice. And when I'm singing all these higher notes, these higher harmonies to what he's doing, I'm really having to push to try and keep up with his power.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand. I had never learned how to do that. Instead of pushing from my diaphragm, I didn't understand how to sing correctly back then. There was a certain song, man, I'll never forget. We opened up for the Nixons in Abilene. Not Abilene, it was in Amarillo. We opened up for the Nixons in Amarillo. And this would probably have been around 1998, 86 or 88, somewhere in there. And we opened up for the Nixons. There's a particular song that the harmony was either right at the bottom end of my falsetto or right at the top end of my chest. And so I would always push it as hard as I could at the top of my chest. And I'll never forget being on stage and going for that note and being like, ah! And it just, my voice was gone, dude. I mean, and I had never experienced that before. I mean, I couldn't talk. I came home. I went and saw a doctor. They put me on this steroid Z-Pack or whatever. And for like a week, it seemed normal. And then after I got off that Z-Pack, this is how my voice was always sounding, all scratchy and everything. I could still sing harmonies and stuff, but but my voice wears out. Like if I try to sing a song in its entirety, I can be about 2-3 songs into it and my voice just starts getting real raspy and I don't have a lot of duration there. And so even Hunter was the one that's like, dude, you probably have a nodule or something. You should go see a guy. So I think I might go see a doctor to see if I've got something on my vocal cord that maybe I could have, but like to get back to it, it's funny because you're not the only person that thought that was me singing. Other people have said that. I'm like, I wish that was me. This dude's voice is so incredible.
Yeah, it's man, he does. He's got a great range and it like I said, it adds to what everything you're telling me about the song and the music to hear that was just somebody that came in and it just sounds so organic to use a cheesy word. It sounds organic. Like everything was just, Yeah,
I appreciate that. What we're trying to do is, this whole AI thing that's happening, we want it to sound like a rock band, and we wanted to, and that's another thing that I think we have is that, for us, this is a passion project and so there's no preconceived anything. We go in and we make it sound the way we want it to sound. It's and we hope that, I want people to like it and that kind of stuff. But ultimately it's like, there's no preconceived, like it's gotta be this so that we can get it to this, so that Octane will play it or whatever. It's literally, we just want it to sound great and sound huge drums, huge guitars, vocals, thick bass. And Ross is real great at his mixing and recording. I'll tell you what, man, we get in the studio and the coolest thing about Ross is that he's also a really great guitar player.
Yeah.
He really is. And so the coolest thing is they got all these amps in there. And so when we go in the studio, people ask me, so you're in there dialing up these, I'm like, I'm not dialing up nothing. I'm sitting there in the studio and I've got a guitar and Ross is like, pick one of those guitars, because I just want to try everything. Yeah. So I'll throw a guitar on and he'll go in there and hook me up to an amp and he'll be in there. He's the one dialing in sounds because I'm like, hey man, I trust you. You're the one that's been working in the studio for years now. And I trust your ears because I've heard your stuff. And he's dialing in the guitar tones and all the stuff, man. So it's awesome. I can't say nothing about it, man.
I know, right? Like I live here in New Jersey now. He's one of the people we very rarely got together, but when we did, it was like an hour of just shooting the shit and laughing. And I used to tell myself, like, why don't I hang out with Ross more? Because back in the day, he was always at the Galaxy Club. I worked at the Galaxy Club, and we just sit there and laugh and make fun of bands.
That's the thing, right? That's the thing. Oh, dude, I'll tell you what. I called Ross because you said that. I called Ross last week to talk about what we had going on over the weekend. And when he answered, I'm like, "What's up, Rastafarian?" And he goes, "We had a 12-minute conversation about the word Rastafarian, what it meant, and where it comes from." And I mean, that's just the kind of dude Ross is. He's so easy to talk to, and man, he is hilarious.
Yeah, he is
hilarious. You can literally get lost in a conversation of just jokes for hours.
Oh yeah, dude. Like I say, when I say Ross is one of my favorite people ever, like I mean that 100%.
Yeah,
he's just a good dude. Good dude.
And quite a good tennis player, I gotta say.
Oh, I didn't even know he played tennis. I'm gonna start calling him McEnroe.
Yeah, man, do it.
Where can people find a Curious Beast online? You guys have a Instagram, Facebook, any of that?
So our Facebook is a Curious Beast. I think it's just at a Curious Beast. So our YouTube is a Curious Beast music video. Our Instagram is a Curious Beast songs. But yeah, you can find us on Spotify. If you go look up a Curious Beast on Spotify or Apple Music, we just got up on there a few days ago, and pretty much every streaming platform that's out there. And I know we have a TikTok as well, which funny thing is I think I've got on TikTok maybe, I think I posted a couple of videos when it first came out and then I just stopped. I don't know. I got out of it. Sean actually runs the TikTok thing. So it's a.curious.beast on TikTok. So we're on all the platforms really. Twitter as well. We just search a Curious Beast, and it's always the avatar with the human alien hybrid looking guy playing the guitar. So, kind of what our whole everything is based. That's what the video for Waves was based on. When we talked to the, I had this idea that I wanted to do animation. I thought would be cool, to tell the story. I've always been a huge fan of like music videos that told the story of the lyrics, And one of the biggest examples to me that has always been is I was very affected by when Pearl Jam put out Jeremy.
Yeah.
I think everyone can kind of remember where they were the first time they saw that video. Because I think all of us, our jaws are on the floor. I'll never forget just being so affected by the statement that video was making. And it was just telling the story of the song that I was like, that's how I want to do things. I want the video to tell what to relate to what the lyrics are, Yeah. So that's kind of that's what we're doing with The Curious Beast. We had the guy that did the animation. We're creating a character. I'm fascinated with AI, man, and what's happening with AI. So I think what AI is there to do is I think it's there for us to utilize it and to help humans create better things. Like, for instance, I think the best example of this is, I got an app and I created those first 2 images that we use on our social media on AI. And I thought it looked so cool. I was like, well, I'll just throw it up there and everything. But when we did the artwork for Waves, I created the original artwork for Waves on AI. And then we hired these guys to take that artwork and make it better. And they made it 1,000 times better than what it was. And to me, so human beings made that better than what AI did, right?
Right on.
And that is how we should be using it. I mean, it's there for us to utilize it. And it's in the studio too, but we're keeping it real with Ross. Ross is like so against it, which I totally get. Because he is all about the organic, he wants real amps and I do too. I've always come from that, But I also think there's a little bit of, well, what can we do? Like, what can we add these little sprinkles of things? I don't want it to sound robotic, but I'm interested, which is kind of like I'm curious about it and what we can do to utilize it for our advantage and it's not writing anything for us or anything like that. But as long as we're utilizing it and it's not utilizing us, I think that's the way to go.
Right on. Yeah, I work with a couple of cats on my crew that are really into AI. And whenever they start talking about it on the bus, I go, all right, Skynet, enough of that.
Yeah. It's true. It's true, man. Sometimes some of the things they're saying about it is kind of like this world where you're like, that can't be how this is going to end up being. But it's the whole idea behind the character that I created for Curious Beast with the guy. Suddenly my mind started going, okay, this is like Future Man. We're not sure what we're going to call him yet, but I've been calling him Future Man. And it's like, what would I could see happening if we do integrate with it? It's like half human, you become this half human, half android type character. And maybe that's where we're headed with things. And so it became a thing where me and Sean started talking about, man, we could really create like comic books with this, create a backstory where maybe this guy did get that chip or something and give him like all encompassing knowledge of everything creative and musical that's ever happened in the world. But maybe the thing that he's giving up is his humanity and he's struggling to remain human. That we've thought maybe that's the basis for our next. And I've already started writing that story. And so we're working on that type of stuff because, what it could look like in the future if AI does become integrated with humanity, All
right on, man. I didn't know it was going to go there.
I know. Yeah, we got our, Sean's working on all of our merchandising and so he really took that and ran with it. I think we have a merch site that he just set us up today. I'll have to get with him on that and ask him what that is to sit up. I'll put it all over our social media. But he's got these awesome shirts and he's taken the designs and kind of run with it, man. And so it's pretty cool.
Right on, man. Well, if it's up before we put this up, I'll link it into your episode.
Okay, awesome. That'd be great.
Well, Toby, man, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, man, and talk about A Curious Beast. I'm excited about what you guys are doing. And I know this was short notice, but thanks for taking the time to do this, brother.
Oh, without a doubt, man. And anytime, I love talking. You're easy to talk to. I knew it was going to be like that because I've seen your other videos as well. And
As you know, our podcast, it's called Is Breakfast Included? And if we were having breakfast, what would you have, brother?
so I would probably have, some over easy eggs, probably maybe some breakfast sausage, and I would probably end up having some hash browns, which I probably shouldn't. Those carbs don't work very well for me. But,
Man, not at this age, right?
yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you what, I love breakfast. It's my favorite meal of the day. So I literally could eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, 3:00 in the morning. I've been known to eat breakfast all day long. So,
Same here, man. Next time I'm in town, I'll hit you up. It's on me.
yeah, I would love that. Let's do it, man. Let's do it for sure.
All right, Toby. It was good talking to you, brother.
And good talking to you too, everybody. Thank you so much again for having me, man.
For sure, man. All right, brother.
All right. You take care.
You too. Right on. Toby Bittenbender. You can find out more about A Curious Beast on Instagram at A Curious Beast Songs, YouTube, Facebook at A Curious Beast. Check them out, man. Check out the single Waves. Make sure you go stream it on YouTube, subscribe to their channel. And while you're at it, check us out. Subscribe to our channel. Rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Visit our store, pick up a shirt, all that good stuff. All right, guys, I'm done. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.